Welcome to the CrossKnowledge podcast. Here we discuss the trends, opportunities, and challenges of corporate digital learning. Let's meet today's host.
Welcome to the series of podcast, The Human Advantage, Insights from Business Leaders. My name is Johanna Lindberg, and I'm account executive at CrossKnowledge, acting as a digital learning and development consultant for my global clients. This series is dedicated to exploring the pivotal role of humans in driving organizational success. Each episode features candid conversations with prominent business leaders who have demonstrated a deep commitment to fostering a thriving workplace environment. Today, we have the pleasure to talk with Sara Lupi, Global Head of Culture, Diversity, Learning and Employee Experience at Sanofi Consumer Healthcare. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you, Johanna. I'm very pleased to be here with you today.
I'm curious to know more about you. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us about the journey you've undertaken to be where you are today?
Sure. So I'm originally from Italy, and I started my career in Italy at L'Oréal. And after that first great experience, I then moved to France, where I joined Sanofi. And this is the place where I spent the past 12 years. And I had a great opportunity of really alternating between HR business partner roles, but also more of COE roles, so more of an expert position as well. And I found a lot of value in this alternation. And the same I tried to do in between local roles, so closer to the country, or in some cases regions, and then more global and corporate roles. And at some point, I also had the curiosity to go and explore directly the business. So that was an awesome opportunity to really be in the shoes of the clients. And I really enjoyed that because I'm curious. So it was really an opportunity to explore. At the same time, it really made me realize also how much I was missing really the HR function. And so I thought I'm lucky to know what I'm really passionate about. And I was even more lucky to be able to land again an HR role, which is my current role. And so what I'm currently doing at Sanofi, I'm leading in a transversal way, let's say, the employee experience for our consumer healthcare division. So it's quite a large span with a lot of great hot topics going through. You were mentioning before, there is the culture aspect, the employee engagement, but as well learning and development, which is pivotal one, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we drive a lot of change overall. So the change management aspect is a very important one for the success of all those topics.
Yeah, indeed. I know your organization is going through a lot of transitions and transformations. For our listeners, it could be interesting to know a little bit more about Sanofi Consumer Healthcare and the specific business context that you are in for the moment.
Absolutely. So Sanofi Consumer Healthcare, it's one of the business unit of Sanofi. And at the end of 2019, with the arrival of our CEO at the time, there was the decision of doing a carve-in of this business unit to be really a standalone with an integrated R&D, so all the innovation, manufacturing functions, and then, of course, the commercialization. So we have the full value chain plus the support functions. And this is a trend that actually you are seeing quite a lot in big pharma at the moment. The idea behind is really to, from one side, enable the focus on the core pharma business. And on the other side, it's a great opportunity to really unlock the full potential that consumer healthcare has as a different business model. And of course, with business dynamics and market dynamics that are very different. And what we are seeing is that really we act as a hybrid in between pharma and FMCG. So it's really a fascinating business. We call it the FMCH category. So the fast-moving consumer healthcare. And of course, the business rules and the dynamics are different. And this has an implication also on the HR side of things when we look at that, because then it means that the type of profiles you're looking for, the skills, the mindset also need a shift. We know that in the case of FMCH, what's really at the center for us is the consumer. And we know that the journey of our consumer are not linear anymore. So we want to make sure we offer an engaging omni-channel experience. At the same time, for example, in this space, what's so critical, and still talking about learning and training, it's also the concept of the edutainment, where you really take an opportunity to share some scientific truths, so some knowledge with your consumers. And it's great for them because it's an opportunity to share knowledge and drive action. For example, it can be about helping the consumer understanding what's wrong for them and to proactively stay well. So you're really empowering them. It's about also making visible what the options could be and what would be then the best one for them. And we really came to define our mission, which is to bring health in your hands. So it's very connected to that concept. And it's also very connected to the concept of self-care, which resonates very much with me. And it makes the mission, in a way, it's very inspiring, but on the other side, it's also very concrete and very pragmatic and empowering for the consumer themselves, because they are at the center of it and they are the ones who will be able to make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah, it seems like this context that you are in and this business transformation you are going through is really exciting. You are at the right moment, at the right place. I was thinking, in this business transformation you are going through, what have you already successfully put in place in terms of learning and development initiatives?
Yeah. So maybe to give you one example, and going back also to what I was mentioning before regarding the importance of the consumer centricity aspect, I would like to share some words about the Marketing Excellence Hub, what we call our Max Hub platform that we built in partnership with CrossKnowledge, because this is really a one-stop shop for all training and resources for our marketing and sales team. And it's really helping in this transformation that I was mentioning, and also the skill updating and increasing the skills, but then also shifting the mindsets. What this platform enables you to do, it's first of all a skill assessment. Once the skill gap is identified, you can then build a personalized offer for you for what really are your needs, and make sure that then you can follow up in the moment that is the most appropriate for you and with the pedagogical experience that is the most relevant for you. And there's also another part that I like very much about this platform. It's that it's a community-based learning. And I have to say on this one, I may be a bit biased because, community-based learning, it's really what fits also my personal preferences in terms of learning. And I really believe it contributes a lot in creating an inclusive and a supporting environment for learning and for sharing. Once you're able to create that safe environment, you can then also feel much more safe as a learner to then move to the application of your learnings, to try out, to test out new things. So I really believe in the power of the community-based learning.
Yeah, because you have very ambitious goals at Sanofi Consumer Healthcare. I know your vision is to become the best fast-moving consumer healthcare in and for the world. Not less than that. Could you please tell us a little bit more about this ambition?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, let me maybe insist a bit on that part that you mentioned, the for the world aspect as well, because I'm very proud also of our commitments in terms of sustainability, whether it is the impact on planet and environment, but also the access for communities. This I really believe it's a responsibility that the organizations have. And I'm really proud that at Sanofi Consumer Healthcare, we are really taking this very seriously. And indeed, the overall vision that we have is an ambition one. And to drive the business transformation at the pace that we desire, we felt that we had to redefine also our behavioral framework. So I was mentioning before, there is this new category, this FMCH space, fast moving consumer healthcare space. And we want to come in that space and be seen as real challengers. And for us, the concept of the challenger brings up the idea of someone who is ready to do something bold to break through against the existing conventions and ways of working. So we took a moment and we asked ourselves, if we want to be a challenger, in which space are we playing? So first of all, who are we challenging? And this, well, you look at our competitors and we know where we are playing, and we also know what we need to do to be, at the top of the podium. Then it's about what are we challenging? And so this is, again, it's the consumer experience. It's how can we elevate our creativity? How can we continue to drive purpose brands? The sustainability commitments I was referring to. But then it's also our organization, our ways of working. And then the last question was, how are we challenging? So to answer this question, we run a diagnostic. We leverage, of course, all the insights that we got from our listening strategy. And then we check with focus groups and individual interviews, really what our employees were thinking and were observing in our reality. Because the most important part is, of course, to define what is the story that you are going to tell the outside world. What is the story that you tell to your employees? But I really believe that what's critical, it's the story that our employees are telling to themselves, and that they are telling to the external world, because they are the best ambassadors and they are honest ambassadors. So with this element of, we did a co-creation moment, and what we identified there, it's this framework of behaviors I was referring to. So we came up with the identification of 4 behaviors. One, it's around act for change, so the importance of driving results. Then we have stretch, making sure we differentiate where it counts and we raise the bar. And there is a concept that is critical for our culture, is the feedback. Feedback in the sense of we want to challenge each other to grow. We want to be able to recognize our strengths and double down on those, but also take all opportunities to learn from each other and to make sure that we bring that element of challenge in all the situations. And then the 4th one, it's the togetherness. We want to make sure we enjoy the ride together. We have maybe an intense ride ahead, but it's a nice journey, and we want to really make sure that we have fun, we learn, and we are being inclusive in that journey. And of course, once you define a new set of behaviors, that can be, nicely sophisticated, but the interesting part is then how do you bring it to life? Because that's then where the real challenge, but also when the fun comes in. So what we did is that we define really a very comprehensive communication and engagement plan. To give you an example of one of the initiatives that we have there, and still in the space of learning and development, is that we design a program that we call Lead to Growth, that is targeting mainly our middle managers, and it's a leadership development program. So what we want to make sure is that for this specific target audience, they are fully onboarded on the strategy, and also they have a full understanding of what this challenger mindset, what those behaviors mean to them, and how they can translate in tangible priorities for themselves and for their teams. Middle managers really play a critical role because they are really pivotal in the organization, being really leading and engaging a large number of teams. So that was one of our focus, for example.
This is great. I mean, you have so many initiatives, and I heard that you have you want the people to be in the driving seat. You have defined the framework, and you do training for the middle managers on the challenger mindset. So all this is really great. But my question would be, how do you engage people, and how do you really make them commitment to foster this change?
Yeah, there is an element that I believe is very important in the process also of driving the change. It's making sure that we communicate and we repeat a lot why we're changing. There is this why, depending how sophisticated we can be, we can either say, it's Simon Sinek, it's the start with why, or, if we want to be a bit more pop, it was even the Backstreet Boys were telling, tell me why some years ago. If we want to go with the reference, and not sure Gen Z will fully get it, but they will now know I'm a millennial. And behind that, it's really the importance of the communication when you want really to create a behavioral change. You need to provide the reason to move to action. And especially in times of change, building the right level of awareness and desire, and then providing the knowledge and the ability for every learner and every employee to then be successful in the evolved organization. It is absolutely critical. And there is this link in between the employee who becomes a learner. An employee is also always a learner. And how do you create the engagement and that desire to continue to learn and develop themselves in a context, in an environment that is evolving and changing? So we took an opportunity, given the fact that Sanofi is also one of the sponsors of the upcoming Paris 2024 Olympics and Paralympic Games, to really build the storytelling around that. We are even luckier for the fact that we have 2 ex-Olympians within our teams. So we launched a campaign that is called Going for Gold. And with our 2 very real employees, Chris and Rafik, what we did is that we really built a storyline on the similarities that you will have and the parallels that you have in between the performance in sports and the performance in the corporate world. For example, how do you set objectives? How do you leverage feedback? How do you define your development plan? How do you act on it? And what does it mean to take care of your well-being as an athlete and as an employee? So this is really a very impactful way of communicating on some of the changes that we really want to see. Another initiative, for example, that we created, and again, it still goes with this idea of co-creating and making sure that we engage employees at all the different levels of the organization in this journey in which we are on. It's creating an influencer network. So we have a group of passionate individuals, a couple from each country, who really are committed to drive cultural change among their peers. And when I say cultural change is broad, it's about the specific behavioral changes I meant in the context of the challenger mindset, but it can be also the behavioral change we want to see in the context of sustainability, of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and of course also the approach that we want our employees to have towards learning and their own development. So this group of individuals really act as sounding board for us that sometimes, to make sure that from the corporate world and the corporate roles, we are never too disconnected from the reality of the country. This is a mantra that I repeat each time, and it's a personal commitment I made when I took this role. And then it's the importance of also, for them, keeping those topics high on the local agenda, and of course, share feedback on how the local implementation is actually going. And based also on some learnings that we got through them, something we want to now make sure we are launching are creating some bite-sized learning content that are really connected to this narrative I was mentioning also of the sports and the Olympics, with the idea of building some learning moments on a monthly basis. And that will also give an opportunity to really create noise around those moments, because everyone will be talking about that in that period, and it will really create a bit of a buzz. We experienced something similar about a year ago with the feedback, and really we saw the real change that brought, with a mix of learning through some specific training material that we had developed, but then also role model examples coming from the leaders. So we really see that it's a mix of role modeling, training, because you need to always have the foundations of it. So learning is always critical in the change processes. And then it's the communication element.
Yeah, the learning marketing is key indeed. We believe that as well. And I love the storytelling around the Olympics that you have put in place. And you are so lucky to have those athletes within your team. This is just amazing. This series of podcasts is focusing on the human advantage in driving operational success. Today in the work environment and around skills development, it's very data driven. We know the importance to put the human back to the center. And my question is, what is for you in one sentence the human advantage when it comes to learning?
Oh, Johanna, one sentence. You're challenging me now. I could speak with you for hours on that. So what I would say, it's the real human advantage of learning is the possibility of feeding our curiosity, exploring unpaved roads. And while you do that, you have an opportunity to shatter your beliefs, to make sure you're enabling continuously your growth. And when you are really in charge of your growth and you are taking responsibility of your own development, then the opportunities for you just multiply. And you can be exposed to really diverse environments and really be connected to diverse groups of people. And that's, for me, it's really incredible and very enriching. So yeah, I think it wasn't one sentence, but
no. It's okay. I want to thank you so much, Sara, for participating in this podcast and for so openly share your experiences and some success stories, things that you have put in place at Sanofi. I'm sure it's going to be very inspiring for our listeners. If people want to learn more about your organization and connect to you, where would they be able to find you?
So they can find more information directly also on our corporate website. So we can probably then connect the links to that, but you will easily find it when you type Sanofi. You find plenty of information, and in particular also about Sanofi Consumer Healthcare. That, as I was mentioning, it's one of the business units of Sanofi at the moment.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sara. I wish you a great end of the day and talk to you soon again about these passionate topics.
Thank you so much, Johanna, and looking forward for more partnership.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you again for the next episode of the CrossKnowledge podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues.